right. Great morning, everybody. Welcome to Breakthrough Mastermind Group. For those of you that are new, actually, everybody's been here before, haven't you all? Everybody's been here before, but today's topic is going to be on doing the work. And Lori has such an incredible message and presentation for us today. I'm so excited to have her. Lori's got a soft spot in my heart. We've been able to build a relationship over the last year, and she's just an incredible person. So as you all know, we're not here to pitch our businesses. We're really here to build genuine information, intellect, knowledge to help each other level up our businesses. But if you have questions, jot them down. We do have a smaller group today because obviously we're going into Christmas. So take the opportunity to connect with people. You know, I hope everybody's ready for the holidays. I'm going to introduce Lori. So again, Lori is somebody that's become very close with me. She's just absolutely incredible. She specializes in helping people with franchising. Okay, she's like the franchising queen. So that's how you can think of Lori. So if you or anybody you know is looking to franchise, you definitely want to reach out with her and have a conversation. She's also in the Thrivers group that Matt and myself are also in together, different groups, but very, very great support system. So, you know, Lori, thank you so much for your time today. Can't wait to hear what you have. I'm gonna stop talking now and give you the floor.
Sure. So delighted to be here. As Keegan said, you know, we have a very special relationship, and so I was really excited to be invited here. I have a management consulting firm, and we specialize in multi-unit business development. So we do franchising and licensing, but I also have an executive coaching practice where I work with business owners, C-suites, VP suite, and my program is all about productivity. So one of the first things that we talk about when we talk about productivity is procrastination. So show of hands, who here is a procrastinator? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, sometimes people procrastinate on some things and not on others, right? You may procrastinate on doing a project, but not, doing a project for work, but you're perfectly happy to build your IKEA bookcase. So, there it really depends. So I've got a short presentation which we'll go through, and then we'll do some exercises to help drive this home for you. So the presentation isn't that long. Feel free to ask questions if you want at any time during the presentation. It's meant to be interactive. I'll pick on people. If you don't ask questions, I'm gonna pick on you anyway. So there we go. So I'm going to share my screen. And of course, oh, here we go. Okay. So there we go. So that's me. That's my logo, Lori Carbon and Company. Very original. I know. It took me a long time to come up with that, but that's me. So the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, what is procrastination? So who here is familiar with Napoleon Hill? Anybody know Napoleon Hill? Yeah. And what did he write?
Outwitting the Devil.
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich was the book I was thinking of. And in that book, that was the first book really that looked at the idea of the law of attraction. Didn't really exist before. That was the first book that started to talk about attraction, manifestation. And he says procrastination is the bad habit of putting off until the day after tomorrow that which should have been done the day before yesterday. So pretty simple. Procrastinate. You don't do something that you're supposed to do. It's, life is pay me now or pay me later. So either you're going to do it now and get it over with, or you're going to suffer through that pain and guilt and anxiety of not having done it until you actually do it. And that's when you get rid of the pain. So these are about 10 little items to see whether or not you're a procrastinator. So write down, just, note down how many apply to you. So the first one would be, do you always feel like you're under the gun? So do you always feel like there's something you have to do, you're under the gun, you've got deadlines, and you're just feeling that you just can't keep up? which is the second one, which is, do you have trouble keeping up? Is your list of must-do projects growing longer despite the hours that you work? So, oops, I just need to move this. All right, I just need to move this out of the way. So, do you go for the easy thing rather than the complicated one? So you're looking at your activities that you have to do and you're picking, oh, I have to call Joe to make an appointment. So, you're picking out and you're doing the small ones that you can sort of feel that you can manage and tick off, as opposed to really dealing with the bigger ones. Lots of people have trouble choosing between the important and the trivial. So something may come up, someone may come into your office and they may come in and they say, I need you to look at this right away. Well, that may be important to them. It does not mean it's important to you. So you have to determine what are your own priorities. Next one would be, are you easily distracted? So you're in the middle of writing your report and you hear the little ding for your email. And so you go right over and you check your email. I do that all the time. So I confess to that. So another one would be, do you have a hard time making up your mind because you're afraid you're going to make a mistake? That's really common amongst procrastinators, is procrastinators just don't make decisions because they're waiting for the time to be right. And the thing is that the time is never going to be right. The right time is now. And I tell my clients that they should be taking action, one action every day towards their goals. And that could be the smallest little thing. Like if I'm doing my book, it could be, getting in touch with Matthew. It can be the smallest little thing. But once you do these things and you start doing all the small things, the big thing at the top takes care of itself. So if we worry about the little things, we do all the little things, we don't have to worry about the big thing. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Are you often too tired to start or finish a project you should undertake? So it's like, oh, I really should write that table of contents now, but I'm exhausted and I'm going to do that another time. Do you spend more time hoping and wishing than doing? Do you delay finishing one project until you think it's perfect and generally demand perfection in life? You don't have to wait for things to be perfect. They're never going to be perfect. I tell clients to take imperfect action every day. So just take one small action towards your goal every day, and you don't have to do it perfectly. Just take one small imperfect action every day. People that are procrastinators are easily bored and they tend not to ask for help for others because a lot of procrastinators are type A personalities and high achievers, believe it or not. And these are people that they don't want to ask for help and they don't realize that if they would just get some help, they wouldn't have this procrastination issue. And the last one is, do you think things will get better by themselves? So let's see by a show of hands. Let's see, we'll go around here. I need to move you people. So let's see. So let's go around. So Matthew, how many did you get out of the 10?
5.
5. Ashley?
Oh God, I was not keeping track. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Take a guess. How many do you think of these fit you?
I would probably say like around 4.
Nice. Ben? Just one? Cool. Ryan?
Around like 6.
Most people have like 6 or 7 in that range, somewhere between 5 and 7. Jen, what do you got?
So I'm not much of a procrastinator because I like jumping in, getting it done, being on top of things. I think a lot of these have the ability, even as not a procrastinator, to sneak in once in a while. So I would say I've experienced pretty much all of them at one point or another, but I wouldn't categorize any of them necessarily as me on the regular basis.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let me just move you guys over here. So here we go. So if you answered like 5 or more, then procrastination is a real problem for you. And the easy thing about that is that we can help you. So we're going to look at different ways today to get past procrastination. And even if you're not a procrastinator, these are really just good tools on how to work and function effectively. So 97% of the population considers themselves a procrastinator, and 75% say it's a chronic problem in their life. The other 3% say they never procrastinate. I personally think they're lying, but that's my opinion. So this was something that I learned, and it made a huge difference in my stress level when I learned this. So in business, there's a rule called the 80-20 rule. As a business rule, it means that 20% of your 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients. And that's true in most businesses. Most of your business comes from your top 20% of your clients. When we're looking at procrastination, what it really means is that of the work that we do and the work that we put out, only 20% of that work really needs to be perfect. The rest can be good or good enough. For example, if you're sending a proposal to a client, that has to be perfect, right? No typos, the right spacing, all those kinds of things, because that's how you're showing up, and you're showing up on paper. But if you're writing an internal email, then you don't have to worry about that as much. It doesn't matter if you're writing an internal email to one of your colleagues saying, did you finish that project? And it doesn't have to have the, oh, I was just checking in to see if you've had the opportunity to, review the project. No, did you finish the project? That's good enough. So there are lots of circumstances where being good enough is sufficient. Really, only 20% of what you do really has to be perfect. And I know when I learned that relieved a lot of stress for me, because I'm a writer and I'm the kind of person that really thinks about every single word. And I would do that whether I was writing colleagues or whether I was writing clients or whether I was writing friends. And I got to the point where I realized, and I looked at this and I said, that stuff doesn't need to be perfect. And it really relieved a lot of stress for me when I learned that. So does this make a difference or a change for anybody? Does anybody see how this is like an aha moment for them?
I'm going to jump in, Laurie. I think that I love this because there are a lot of various points you brought up. So, again, in summarization, this is on doing the work, right? And that's about the underlying premise. The thing that prevents people from doing the work and getting the results is, as you have mentioned, the procrastination piece. And it's such a relevant part for people. So I love that you brought this up. I just want to throw one thing in, because I've got a lot of notes here, but I've brought this up before. But is everybody familiar with the concept of eat the frog? Laurie, I don't want to take you off. Are you still going through this presentation, by the way?
Yeah, but you go ahead. We've got time, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, if everybody, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the eat the frog concept, but this was
look at that. Matthew has the book.
Does he? I can't see. That's why. Let me switch this up. But the concept here. So this was brought on by Mark Twain, and essentially his point is that, and this is everything that Laurie just said, right? Is that oftentimes we get caught up in our day. And then we might put a task off here and put a task off there. And then we get to the end of the day and we realize, oh my gosh, I have all of this pile of work I need to get done. So the eat the frog concept is very simple. As soon as you start your day, you do the most difficult task first. Because if you think about it, if you were to start your day and eat an actual frog, like a live frog, the rest of the day is going to be easier. You've done the hardest part first. So it's a downward slope and it becomes easier. His other point is, if you have two ugly frogs, you eat the uglier of the two. So if you have two really big tasks, you always want to tackle that more difficult one of the two. So this is just a really simple image, and it always stuck with me. I just always thought about eating an actual frog, and this works. So I thought I'd interject that, but I'd love to hear from everybody else as well.
So I had a question for Laurie. On the 80-20 rule, maybe this is just my writer brain and perfection, but do you feel like it's when you blur that line between internal communication and then client proposal, for me, I start to drop to my lowest common denominator. So if I start sending text messages or internal communications where I'm slacking on the grammar, the English, the punctuation, that tends to bleed over into my interactions where it shouldn't.
Right. Yeah, yeah, because those are habits and they're hard to break, you know? So yeah, I totally understand that.
Any advice on how to try to not be perfect when you don't need to and save that brain capacity, yet at the
Well,
same time?
you hit the nail on the head. That's what you're doing, is you're saving the brain capacity. So, you know, if you find that you need more than 20% of your work to be perfect, then, you know, for you, maybe it's, you know, 60-40. And it can be different for people. But the point is that there's sort of the 2 points here. One is the right time is now. So stop waiting for everything to be perfect, because the right time is now. And the second one is to realize that not everything you do has to be perfect. So you can ask yourself when you're doing something, does this need to be perfect, or does this just need to be good or good enough? So it's very individual, and it's based on each individual activity as well.
Got it. Thank you.
So
Anybody else have any questions? Yeah,
Yeah,
go
Just
ahead.
to add, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ben.
I'll just say, just to add to what Lori's saying about habits. I read somewhere it takes about 30 days to get that habit really ingrained in your life. So it just takes time, but you gotta just push through and just keep doing it for 30 days, and then it'll eventually turn to a habit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The actual number is 21 days. It takes 21 days to develop a habit. So if you just say, okay, I'm just going to do it, right? Like adopt the Nike principle, which really does work. And it's like, just do it. And sometimes that's what you have to do, is you just have to just jump in and just do it. I goad myself, or I will bribe myself, because I say, oh, I don't really want to do this, but I know that I'm going to feel better after it's done, sort of like exercise. Don't really feel like doing it, but I know that after I'm really going to feel better. And that is what I use to motivate myself, is how am I going to be feeling after? It's that I want to recreate that feeling. So when you have tasks and you accomplish them, you feel accomplished and confident. So that's where you concentrate, is that I want to reproduce this feeling of confidence and accomplishment, and that only comes by getting your tasks done. Okay.
So I was going to add real quick too. All this speaks to me very greatly, especially this slide. So while I don't necessarily consider myself a procrastinator, because I take a lot of pride in getting stuff done, I also take a lot of pride in getting stuff done perfectly. And where that may mean I need a therapist, that came from my mother 100%. And she always really drove us towards perfection and getting it done. And so I've carried that on into my adult life. And so looking at that 80-20 rule in this case really could be beneficial for me, because I don't tend to start projects that I know that I will procrastinate on, but I think there are projects that Keegan and Matt could probably speak to, that I will not start because I don't want to procrastinate on it if I got started on it. And so there are times, I guess, that maybe that's another form of procrastination.
Yeah.
I'll keep myself from starting at all. And then one other thing real quick too, kind of the opposite of the eat the frog rule. I read a really small book that just had tips for life in it whenever I was like 18. And one of them was wake up every morning and make your bed. No matter what else you do or don't accomplish in the day, that's that one small task you can say, I've accomplished something for the day. And literally every single day, I make my bed. I can be running late for work or whatever the case may be, but I take that time and I make my bed every single day. And that's something that I've lived by for a very long time. But it's true. There's days where you feel like you don't get anything done, but that's that one thing I fall back to. And I know I got something done. I accomplished something.
That's smart, though. It's a smart way to look at it. is to take one repeatable task and make sure you keep redoing that repeatable task. And then you feel like you've accomplished something. And it's that feeling of accomplishment breeds more accomplishment.
Yep, I do the same thing, Jen. I'm making the bed.
Yep.
And so
There you
many
go.
people, it amazes me whenever I have that conversation with people. And there's so many people that don't make their bed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it would drive me nuts not to now. Now it's almost like an OCD thing, unfortunately. But it's something that, like I said, throughout the day, I'll even think about it when I'm working on something difficult, that I got that done today. So it is helpful.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. So there are two types of procrastination. The first one is called purposeful. And that's the I work better under pressure syndrome. So a lot of people look back in high school or university, a lot of people left studying and crammed at the last minute because they felt that they just would work better at the last minute and they would get more done. The second kind is called productive procrastination. And this is known as the I'll just do one thing first syndrome. So you can be number one, you can be number two, you could be a combination of both. Personally, I'm a productive procrastinator. So it's like, well, I'll just go check the mailbox and see what's come in the mail before I start this proposal. Or, well, I'll just go put up a load of laundry before I read this book. I mean, that it just screams Lori. But you could be either of those. So what are you feeling? Anybody want to say which one they think they are, or both?
Number one for sure.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely number one.
If I have 200 things on a list, I'll get through 199 of them. If I have one thing on a list, it will sit there for 2 weeks.
Yeah. A lot of people are like that. The more pressure you have, the more you get done. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, definitely number one for me. I
Yeah.
remember in school, like you said, just studying at the last minute. Like I never, if I studied for more than 2 days especially for a test or anything in school, it was definitely because like it was a bad day if I'm studying 2 days in a row.
Right. Yeah, that's what a lot of people are. It's sort of like mixed. Some people are both depending on the task, right? So it really depends. I mean, I know that I procrastinate doing laundry. I hate doing laundry with a passion. There's a meme on Facebook that is perfect. It says laundry. It says wash 1 day, wash 45 minutes, dry 1 hour, fold and put away 7 to 10 business days. And that's pretty much what I am. I'm in the 7 to 10 business days to put away my laundry. So this shows an overview of what procrastination actually costs you. So it costs you money, because assume that you're trying to make a sale and this is at work and you're not calling back your prospects. Someone else is calling them back and someone else is getting that business. So if you're not making those sales calls, you are losing money. Okay, it costs you time, because now if you've procrastinated and you've waited too long, you don't have the right amount of time that you need to actually do the project. That causes this sense of feeling like it drains your energy and you feel overwhelmed and guilty, because you've got this this thing that's on your back that you just need to get done. And if you would just get it done, all of these feelings of overwhelm and guilt, all of those things go away and it becomes replaced with self-confidence. So I always say procrastination equals poverty, because if you're putting things off, if you're not working, if you're not doing, if you're not moving forward, you are not going to be successful. And procrastination keeps you small, right? It keeps us in our comfort zone. And it keeps us really small. Excuse me. So let's look at what are some of the psychological reasons. So the first one is it's your parents' fault. And we always blame our parents. But the truth of the matter is, if your parents procrastinated, chances are that's what you grew up and that's what you learned. And so you will do the same thing. A lot of people have what's called a fear to succeed. So when you have a fear to succeed, that's because you're afraid that if you do something well, you may be, let's say you do a great proposal, you may be promoted. That promotion may come with the requirement for you to do public speaking, and you're deathly afraid of public speaking. So it's very subconscious, but it's a fear of success. And that again is something that holds us. So, but people talk about a fear of failure. They don't talk about the fear of success. I mean, I had a perfect situation. My former brother-in-law was a researcher with Bristol Myers Squibb. He created the first anti-hypertension medicine, and he was just brilliant. So they recruited him. He went down to New Jersey, worked in the head office, and they kept moving him up. And at a certain point, they wanted to move him up another level. Moving him up the other level would mean that he would have to travel a lot, and he'd have to do speaking. And that's not what he wanted to do. He was a researcher. He wanted to be in the labs. So he actually denied, he didn't take the promotion because of the fact that it would require him to do things that he wasn't comfortable with. So there's one example. You can have a trauma or bad experience in the past. You guys don't know me, but I'm a former tax lawyer. And when I had to deal with Revenue Canada, that would be traumatic for me. And I had to deal with them a lot. And I would put it off and put it off because I'd always end up in some kind of voicemail hell. I'd never get the right person. I'd never have the right information. And it just made me absolutely crazy. Then there's the, if only I'd have more time, I could have done a great job. And that's really for productive procrastinators, that they say, well, if I had more time, I could have done more research, and I could have, put in the numbers, or I could have put in charts and graphs that would have been more helpful. So you're not doing your best work because you're leaving it to the last minute. We put off things that are threatening because fear is a strong motivator. Procrastination serves as protection. So that's what we're talking about. It keeps you small. It keeps you in your comfort zone. And if you're in your comfort zone all the time, you're not growing. So you have to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're actually growing and you're learning new things and you're getting new skills, and all these things are going to pay off for you financially in the future. And the last one is avoiding confrontation and risk. So most people will procrastinate. For example, if you're a supervisor and you have to fire somebody, or you have to have a difficult conversation with an employee, that's when a lot of people are going to procrastinate, because they want to avoid that confrontation. And this happens in our personal life too, with our mates and our spouses, that we don't always say what's on our mind because we don't feel like starting a fight or whatever. So let's look at some tips to get unstuck. The first thing you have to do is you need to ensure you're in the right environment for success. Not everybody works well 9 to 5 at a desk. It's not everybody's work arrangement. Not everybody is hardwired like that. And not everybody's hardwired to work from 9 to 5. There are people that have completely different schedules because they're following their own body clock. So if you're a morning person, if you're a morning person, that's when what Keegan was saying is you want to get the most difficult things done first, because that's when you're going to have the most concentration if you're a morning person. If you're an evening person, you may leave those kinds of tasks to the evening when it's quiet and there's nobody around and you have time to work and you feel that you can work better. So it's about following your body clock. My body clock is I'm an 8 to 6 person. Those are generally my working hours. 8 to 6, 8 to 7. Those are my working hours. But I have a partner who his working hours, he's a record producer. So he doesn't go to work till 3 or 4 o'clock and works till like 2 in the morning, but that's the hours for his business. So not everybody is meant to work in an office. Some people do better when they work at Starbucks. Some people do better when they work at their desk. Some people at a kitchen table. I'm a believer in having the right environment, which means setting yourself, if you're working at a home office, setting up a nice home office and make it a room that you want to be in. And that's what I've done. You can't see from here, but I've got a gorgeous Louis XIV desk and Victorian chairs, and I have a beautiful office. And this is a place that I like to spend time in. So where you do your work should be an environment as well that you enjoy spending time in. This one, take your big overwhelming projects and break them down into itty bitty pieces, is probably the one that people connect with the most. If you do the small stuff, the big thing will take care of itself. So let's talk, for example, writing a book. So if you're writing a book, you would never put on your to-do list, write book. You wouldn't put that on your to-do list, right? But you may put on your to-do list, research topics could be one. Your second one could be write an outline. Your third one could be write a table of contents. Your fourth one could be do a draft of each chapter. And then the next one could be second draft of each chapter. And then there could be finalization of each chapter. So as you see, you're breaking it down into small, tiny little pieces. And you can do that with just about any task. You can break it down into smallest itty bitty little pieces. And when you do that, and you tick off the little things as you go along, the big thing at the top takes care of itself. So you don't have to worry about the write a book, because that's big and overwhelming and that's a big hairy goal. But being able to say, today I'm going to write chapter 1, that's something that's manageable. So we try to take tasks and break them down into smallest itty bitty pieces. Understanding your why is really important. Understanding why you're doing what you're doing. So, why do you want to write this book? Well, I want to write a book because I've got all these years of experience and I feel that I have something that I can share for other people who are in the franchising industry. So if you understand, or why are you working in general? Are you working for security? Are you working to provide for your family? Are you working so that you can you can retire? I mean, there's so many reasons. And if you understand the why behind your activity, it makes it easier to stay motivated. Schedule your time in advance. You need to have weekly planning sessions with yourself. I have my clients fill out this form that I use called the weekly planner, and they set out, either they do it Friday at the end of the day or they do it Monday morning. And that is a complete list of things that they need to do for the week. So what do I need to accomplish this week? What are the most important tasks I need to accomplish? And what are the small tasks, the itty bitty pieces that I need to take care of this week? Most people have a to-do list that has like 100 things on it, right? We never get through our to-do list. So understand that when you die, your inbox will be full. You're not going to get through everything. So what I recommend is that when you sit down in the morning, you pick your top 3. So you say to yourself, if nothing else, I will accomplish 1, 2, 3 today. So pick 3 things, any things. Look at your to-do list, pick out 3 things. The average person can only accomplish 3 to 5 tasks a day. Sometimes we're better, and if they're smaller things, we do more. But on average, we're talking about 3 to 5 things to do in a day. So pick your top 3. Every morning, sit down and say, if nothing else, 1, 2, 3, because as you get those 3 things done and you tick them off, you feel very accomplished. The guilt starts to go away. You get more confidence and you start being able to tackle more and more work with confidence, and you procrastinate less. The Nike theory, just do it. I hate to exercise and I need to exercise and I don't like to do it. So I decided for myself that what I realized was that I needed to take motivation out of the equation. Because if I only did it when I was motivated to do it, I would never do it. So I hired a personal trainer. And now motivation is not an issue. I show up twice a week at 6 p.m. and there he is, and we train. I don't think about it. I just go, I do it. I do whatever he says for me to do. And then I feel great after. And I keep telling myself, and what keeps me going back is how great I feel after I've accomplished it. Reward yourself when you conquer something. So I'm a big believer in bribing yourself. If I finish reading this chapter, then I'll go to Starbucks and have a latte. Or, I'll finish reading this chapter and then I'll go for a walk, or I'll take a break, or I'll have a piece of cake, or whatever it is for you. But reward yourself, because most of us are entrepreneurs and we don't have people who are going to be our rooting team. And so we need to do that for ourselves. So rewarding yourselves when you accomplish something is a really great thing. Get an accountability partner. Keegan and I are both big on that. We're each other's accountability partners. And I'm a big believer in getting someone, who is going to keep you accountable. Could be a coach, it could be a colleague, it could be anyone, but just someone who's going to keep you accountable to your goals. A lot of people have coaches. I'm a coach. I have a coach. Keegan is a coach who has a coach. Even coaches have coaches because we need to be able to, to do our own self-development. And so it's really important if you tell someone, I'm going to deliver this by Friday, to have someone who's going to say, did you get that done? And the last thing is to use positive self-talk. So, when we're procrastinating, we're feeling down, we tend to talk to ourselves, oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I can't get this done. I'm so lazy. Why am I'm not doing this? And you have to get rid of all the negativity, and you have to use positive talk that says, okay, I'm going to get this done. I'm confident that I'm going to get these 3 things done today. And then when you get them done, say, hey, I got them done, and pat yourself on the back, because no one's going to do that for you. So as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, we really need to be able to congratulate ourselves. So what have we learned? We've learned that procrastination costs time, energy, and most of all, money. We've learned that procrastination equals poverty. We've learned that procrastination destroys your self-confidence and your self-esteem. And we also learned that if you take care of the big stuff, the little stuff, if you take care of the little stuff, the big stuff will take care of itself. And that is my presentation. And now I'm happy to open it up. Questions, comments.
Yeah. So
Lori, I want everybody.
No, I was just going to say, thank you so much. That was incredible. I've got a ton of notes here. I would love to open it up to the group and see if there are any questions, comments, anything like that. Let's get some discussion going for the last 18 minutes. Jen?
Yeah, so one of the ones that you mentioned was that to-do list and choosing the top 3. And some of you might have heard me share this before, but earlier this year, I actually heard Eric Qualman. He goes by Equal Man, which is just E. Qualman. And he gave the advice, and I really have enjoyed that, is taking your to-do list and then on the side, making a to-don't list. And it's moving things from that to-do list to say, I'm not going to do these. I'm not going to mess with them. And it's essentially choosing your top 3, but you're saying, I'm not going to start these. I'm not going to let them get in my way. And truly sticking to that to-don't list so that they don't get in the way and become a distraction. Those things aren't going to make your day better. They're not going to help you accomplish anything more. So I'm not going to do them.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah. Yeah. That's just, like you're saying, it's like picking your top 3.
Or I also love that you use the book example of, different ways you can break it down. When I'm coaching people, I even go a step further, especially if someone's never written a book before, because writing a chapter can sound completely daunting to someone who's never sat down and written more than 3 sentences.
Right.
So we break it down to just write for 10 minutes a day. Right? Even if nothing comes out, sit there in front of your computer, focus for 10 minutes, turn your phone off, and then go to 15, go to 20.
I love that. I love that. That's a really smart idea, because what you could do also is, most of the time when you start and you say, okay, I'm just going to do this for 10 minutes, 90% of the time you end up getting into it and doing more. And that's why that's such a great hack, because I have a little, I set my, on my phone, and I'll set it for half an hour, because I'm going to do this project. I'm going to work on this for half an hour. And I often find myself going well past the half an hour because I've gotten into it. Same thing with people who don't like to exercise. I was listening to a TED talk of someone, and she said, just go outside and walk for 1 minute. 1 minute. That's it. Do 1 minute on your first day. Just do 1 minute. And over time, she built up, and now she's walking 30 to 40 minutes a day, several months later. But she started doing it by just going outside and walking for 1 minute every day.
That's actually in the book I'm listening to, Atomic Habits.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So I'd love to go ahead, Ben.
Ben?
Oh, yeah. First of all, Laurie, great presentation. This is awesome. But a couple of things like popped up in my head, especially when you're talking about like exercising. Um, just some tips that I've used. I trick my brain and I think about the pleasurable things. And so I like to watch sports. So instead of saying I have to work out, I say I get to work out, but I get to also watch sports. And so my brain is like, wow, this is my time to just watch sports, not really work out. And because of that, it's like I'm looking forward to my time to watch these sports. And the same thing with big projects. Um, I make the time to wake up just a little bit early in the morning because you said, we have to know what our bodies are like. I'm most creative in the mornings, but I also like to listen to new kinds of music that isn't distracting, but just something that motivates me and gets me going, and that kind of like choose what I want to listen to the next day in the morning to work on this project. So then again, I get to listen to new music,
Yeah.
not that I have to work on this difficult project or eat that frog, as Keegan was saying. So it's like I'm tricking my brain for pleasurable things to look forward to, but at the same time get the work done. So I just said
Brilliant. Brilliant. Absolutely. It's like I said before, it's similar to, motivating yourself to do something by conjuring up the feeling that you have when it's done.
Yep. And then after time, you get pleasure from like listening to music and doing the work, and like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Right. And in 21 days, you built a habit.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
So I'd love to throw some things out because this is such a big topic and there are a lot of segments to this. So what I mean by that is that, if we talk about doing the work, there's also the element of procrastination. We're also talking about creating habits. We're talking about a bunch of different things that are all around this, right? So I just want to break a couple of these things down in briefly in about 5 minutes, and then I'll turn it back over to the group. But some of the big things that really stand out to me are the words that we have with ourselves, the words that we share with each other internally. That's exactly what Ben was just saying. He was saying, look, what I do is I go into my head and I shift the conversation around from the short-term and the long-term reward, the pain and the pleasure system that I have internally. Those are things we all have, right? Short-term versus long-term, pain versus pleasure. So if you can use these things to leverage yourself into getting, all those beautiful examples that Lori showed to beat procrastination, it's just huge. So I wanted to share a couple things really quickly, but when we talk about, and I'm not trying to throw a plug, but the book that I just put out that Matt helped me with, I just put in the chat, and it discusses a lot of these topics. But if you look at the RAC, for example, the reticular activating system, what that does is processes your visual, your auditory, and your touch. So some people primarily respond to one of those, some people all three. It's very important to determine which one of those you most respond to, because that's how you create the proper triggers that Lori's talking about. When you create the proper triggers, then you can get the task completed. So I'm going to take that a level further. So BJ Fogg has a model for this. He's considered like the father for creating and changing habits. And he says you need three things. One, you must have the ability. For example, if I said I want to go out and run a marathon tomorrow, but I was a paraplegic, is that a possibility down the road? Absolutely. If I got prosthetic legs, but it might not be an immediate ability right now. I can't go out right now and run that marathon. Number two is motivation. When the only reason that we have motivation is to propel us into action. That's the only thing that motivation is there for. So when motivation is highest, that's when we must act. And the third part is, again, the triggers. And that's what bleeds into that RAC. Knowing what triggers you respond to. Let me give you an example. Lori, I know you said you hate exercise, right? So one of those things, one of the components to exercise is your diet, your water intake, what you're eating. So I work with people, and there's one individual that always stands out to me, and he started his day by drinking coffee and eating a donut. So every day he woke up, he walked over to the coffee machine and had his donut and his coffee. And so he wanted to have a healthier approach. So just like Laurie is saying, we had to create a trigger for him. Well, how do we do that? He responded to visual. So what that allowed us to do was say, okay, I understand that you respond to visual. Let's set up a visual trigger. He had the ability to eat healthy. He needed the motivation and the trigger. So we just replaced that donut and just started putting an apple next to the coffee maker. So now every morning that he woke up, he walked over to his coffee maker. He saw the coffee and the apple, and just that tiny little shift, that baby step that Laurie's talking about, is taking out that element of the huge picture of saying, oh my gosh, I got to get in the gym for 2 hours today. I got to completely change my diet. No, you just start small. You start very small. And then you look back after those 21 days, after that month, and you realize this is now a part of my identity. So now all my actions support that identity. And then the last thing, and then I'll turn it back over to the group. The last thing I wanted to share is the other thing that Lori had mentioned, and we talked about this 2 calls ago, but knowing your why. You know, why are you doing this, right? And I'll venture to say this and kind of challenge people to contest me on this. But what I've found in doing particular exercises, at the root of most people's why, not always, but the root of most people's why, they want to prove to the world that they hold worth and value, that their life means something. So if you can identify what that means to you, what your big why is, then you attach all these little habits to that big why. So the last time that we closed, we had an action item, and that action item was really simple. It was, hey guys, can everybody go on LinkedIn and just post a poll, right? I saw Patty do it. So awesome job on that, Patty. I threw one up on Friday myself, but the action item for today that I would love to leave with everybody is a little different. So if you don't already have your big picture plan for 2022, I would challenge you to get that down between now and January 1, right? You gotta know what your goal, what your theme is for the year. Once you know what those big goals and themes are, then you ask yourself one question, and it's a very simple question. Does this serve my big goal? You know, when I was a financial advisor, I would most often work about 16-hour days, and I would never go home until I got my sale for the day. And that was my objective. So every single day I would go out and say, okay, I got to get this sale. And every little action, I actually printed a bracelet and said, does this serve me? And so I looked at that every time and would say, okay, is this serving my big picture goal? If it does not, I just don't do it. If it does serve the goal, I do it. Auditory trigger, bracelet, right? Going back to that RAC. So I just wanted to kind of fuse some of that stuff in, because Lori, you did a phenomenal job. These are all extremely relevant topics for everybody. And if you really want to take all this information that she shared and all these little nuggets, you got to know what you're doing in 2022. And then you implement all these tiny little tricks and techniques to get that big picture goal. So I'm going to turn it back over. Anybody else? Any questions, comments, snide remarks?
Yeah,
Anything like
Patty
that?
go ahead, Patty.
Thank you. Laurie, I'm sorry I was late. I will watch the replay because what I saw was really valuable.
And I will send the presentation to Keegan so he can circulate it amongst you guys.
Great, thank you. So 2 things I wanted to share. Late last night, my son sent me something, and I just thought I would share it with you. The man's name is Ed Milet. He has the concept of the mini days. So what you're saying is to outline what's important. He puts together 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. He's going to get done everything he has to do. So the rest of the day, he can choose what he wants to do, because it's all about that kind of time management concept. So I thought that was really valuable. Like, if you know you have to get it done by noon, you'll be more effective, I feel. And the other thing that came to mind was the book, Consistency is the New Currency, the book. That's awesome about creating that habit that he says, literally get a piece of paper. And if you do it day 1, you put a check. You do it day 2, put a check. Day 3, put a check. Once you have 3 days, you're not going to want to miss putting that check. You might not do 25 push-ups, but you'll drop to the floor and do 5 so you can put that little check on the paper. But the key is to put it on the paper. So this book is awesome. If anybody wants to kind of get on that, the consistency chain.
Oh, Jim Packard.
Yeah, it is awesome. It's a small read, but powerful. That's me.
Fantastic, Patty. I love that concept of the chain. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this. We did a mastermind group in June of this summer, and there was one on personal development, and Hayden did a really phenomenal presentation. And one of the things he shared was the concept of the chain. So you can just think of your life or your year, if you want to just break down 2022 as, look, there are 365 chain links. And every day that I don't show up, I'm breaking the chain. And just like Patty said, even if your goal is 25 push-ups for the day and you don't get your 25, but you drop down before bed and do 5, you haven't broken the chain, right? So when you get to the end of the year, you want to count how many days you missed versus how many days you conquered, because the days you missed should be so few. So thank you for sharing that, Patty.
Good point.
Any other last minute thoughts or questions or comments, guys, before we wrap up? Okay, awesome. So look, everybody, I just want to say, special shout out to Lori. Thank you so much for all the wonderful information and for sharing this with everybody in the group. I know it was extremely valuable. So thank you for that. Everybody else, thank you so much for your contributions. Unfortunately, this is our last group for the year. So this is the last time that we will be together. If you guys enjoyed this group, thank you so much for everything. We are going to launch the next one January 11th. So I'll be shooting out some information from that, all different speakers, all different topics, all for business owners. So if you guys are interested in that, would love to share that with you. If not, no worries. But it's been an absolute pleasure. You guys are so phenomenal. I'm so grateful to have everybody here in my circle. If there's anything that I can do to help, let me know. Make sure that you get in touch with Lori. Use that chat. And I just can't thank you guys enough. You guys are so incredible. If you haven't already, make sure you go back and check out the YouTube page. There's a lot of videos, a lot of really good content. I actually saw that our core values one has already been viewed 40 times, which I thought was crazy because it came out 2 weeks ago. But yeah, guys, any questions or anything else?
I just want to make a note. I put my email into the chat. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me or they want to talk about procrastination, they want to help me, they want me to help them put a plan together or anything that has to do with productivity, time management. I mean, that's what I work on is productivity in general. So feel free to take me up on it. Reach out to me anytime. It'll be my pleasure.
That sounds good, Lord. I just want to say thank you, Keegan, for putting together just some wonderful people. I felt like every morning on Tuesday, I left the meeting just more, I don't know, full of energy and inspired. So just want to give you a round of applause and thank you very much for doing this.
Great way to start our day, right?
Absolutely.
Couldn't have done without you guys. You
Thank
guys
you.
make it the group. So thank you.
And thanks
so much.
everybody else because it's been, yeah.
Agreed.
Thanks for having me.
Also, I'm going to throw this out.
Happy
real quick.
holidays. Go
I
ahead,
have
Keegan.
one slot left. So if anybody is interested in speaking, please shoot me a message. And then, you can choose whatever topic you like, as long as it's relevant, but we would love to get you on as a speaker. But everybody, thank you so much. Happy holidays, safe travels. I send my blessings and my love out to you and your family. So if you need anything, let me know. I love you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.